What's up, Amazon sellers, and welcome back to the weekly show where we share some news and hopefully answer all of your guys' questions. I'm Chris Grant, and to my right is my co-host, the gymnosophical Chris Rasick. Now, for those of you who may be new here, our job is to try and make your life a little bit easier as a seller. Maybe you've got questions about doing retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, or you're trying to start wholesale. Well, we're here to help. We'll answer your questions about Keepa. We're going to share some news with you, maybe a crazy Amazon story or two, and of course, take any question you throw at us. Glad to see you guys here. Big T's in the house. Jaron and Christina, Rob, Sarah, good to see you guys. Chris, how's your week going, man?
The week's going good. It's one of those where you ever feel productive but still have a real daunting to-do list. You know, it's a good problem to have. And then, this is a phenomena that I don't know where else to share it to see if anybody else it can commiserate with this. But I had, so I don't think I'm giving anything away because the site has gotten a bit of a profit bug, right? But there was, for a very brief period of time, there was a site called Betty Mills, and they were selling medical supplies. Mm-hmm. And there are far more variations of ostomy bags that I ever realized, right? And the stuff was like super profitable, right? But it was very short-lived, and Betty Mills all of a sudden jacked their prices up from like $30 up to $60 or something like that. So it was cool while it lasted for a very short period of time. And then I even got gated on some of them, right? So I had some of the stuff in home, so I put it on eBay, and I couldn't find the exact model number of the one that I had, so I didn't have a lot of high hopes, but they turned out really good. Like I sold through my entire inventory, and I was down to my last box of them, and I got an offer. I think I had them listed like $29.99, and somebody sent me an offer for $20, right? And I was like, they were selling well. I was like, I'm not sure I really need to take 33% off. But then I saw the note at the bottom, and it said, "Really need these." And I'm like, oh, and I was like, and I never believe anybody, like, I'm sorry if you sent that note and you're being sincere, but I ended up declining the offer, right? And then less than an hour after I declined the offer, I hear the notification go off, and I sold that last one. And there's this feeling of kind of like terror, like incoming negative feedback, like, because you ever get that, like, you sell it immediately after declining a lowball offer, and you feel like it's going to be the person that lowballed you, and you have like no margin for error. Like, you better pack that thing extra bubble wrap, like the thickest box you've got, because if anything goes wrong, that person is gonna just squash you in the feedback. So, but actually, it turned out to be somebody else, thankfully. But which is kind of weird. You get the declined offer. That's happened a couple times where I declined the offer, but then the exact same item sells to somebody else shortly afterwards. So that must juice the algorithm or something. So
interesting.
But
yeah, yeah, I know the feeling. No, you got a bad feeling. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm having a good day. We've beat an inauthentic claim, beat an IP complaint, and got negative feedback removed all within 24 hours. I'm probably I don't know when the lottery drawing is, but I should probably go grab a ticket.
Yeah, great. Get a scratch off at least.
Right. And yeah, Luke, so sorry, man. I was wondering where the heck Chris was at 5:00, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna have to go live without him. And it was totally on me. My blonde roots were showing. And even though my calendar says very clearly 5:30, it was nuts. All right, let's dive in. Before we dive in, we've got a little bit of an ad. And back in 2014, Amazon was the Wild West compared to what it is now. For fewer sellers, it felt like you could find profitable items just by walking into a store and throwing a rock, and what seemed like endless opportunity. But most people didn't take action, still don't. And by the time those people looked up and thought about it and got on it, well, it was a lot harder to mine the gold from the well that is Amazon. And right now, Walmart's sort of given off some of those 2014 vibes. It's a much smaller marketplace, but marketplace growth is up 34% year or quarter over quarter. There's less than 150,000 sellers. Competition seems a little bit lighter. There's some real profit potential over there, but there's something that stops a lot of people. It's called the bystander effect. You see others jumping in, and you kind of convince yourself that it's too late. The opportunity's already bygone, but it's just not true. There's actually still time to be a bit of an early adopter. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do a free live webinar to show you how to get approved, which is one of the problems that a lot of people have. You got to be a little bit more professional right up front. And we're going to be taking questions, kind of show you the right way about how to get on Amazon, sell on Amazon. No fluff, just what's working right now for my friend Sarah. She's built herself a really nice business on Walmart. And I found out just yesterday that she does it in 15 hours a week. I figured she was spending way more time than that. But she's been training and bringing people on. She's at 15 hours a week. That way she can focus on her family. She is very big into user-generated content. And she also sells on Amazon. So if you want to come and learn from her, hear me spout off some facts and some figures, head over to cleartheshelf.com/webinar. That's cleartheshelf.com/webinar. You can see that link down in the show notes. And we'll be getting together at 7 p.m. tomorrow night to chat Walmart. All right. We've got.
Sorry, did you see Luke's comment? Here, I'll pop it up here.
Oh, there we go. I've been saying lately, I think Walmart's a no-brainer for Amazon sellers. I'm at 35 orders, 2K and counting, all Amazon gated products. Yeah, it is a no-brainer. I haven't sold a whole lot over there. I've got a bit of a death pile I need to start putting over there. But yeah, it's good to be multi-channel. I'm channel agnostic. I'm becoming more and more, especially in today's gating landscape, which is starting to irritate me just a touch.
Yeah, even just getting rid of stuff that you can no longer sell on Amazon. If you're generating those kind of numbers, I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense to learn how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we'll help. All right. Let's dive into some news. And of course, if you guys have questions, make sure to drop them in the chat. We'll get to them. I promise. We've got a few pieces of news. In this first one, we're going to talk about a robot that has feelings. This is particularly called the Vulcan. Now, not the famous Vulcan, Spock, not the god of fire, who is the lesser-known husband of Venus, the god of love, who, ironically, had quite the tumultuous marriage with Venus and ended up messing around with his brother Mars. I'm sorry. It's a little ADD. I went down a little rabbit hole, so I need to digress. But this Vulcan is Amazon's first warehouse robot that literally has a sense of touch or tactile feedback. Now, if you're imagining a Terminator-style hand gripping a pack of Nike socks, that's not it. Although Skynet is surely on its way, and you should gird your loins. Vulcan is a little bit different. It's trained to pick and store products with the finesse of a human, thanks to something they call physical AI and force feedback sensors. So let's paint a little picture here. Imagine those tall Amazon inventory pods, and they're stacked really high with fabric bins. All right. Well, Amazon doesn't keep those perfectly organized like a TikTok restock video. Okay. They're actually packed like junk drawers, all squished together, more like a clearance bin at Ross. And historically, robots, they just weren't good at dealing with that kind of mess. They could see, quote unquote, but not feel. which meant they either sucked up the wrong thing, knocked over other items. Thanks for that, Amazon. I know that's where a bunch of warehouse damage is coming from. Or they just tapped out and called over a human, slowing down the process. Well, not Vulcan. This bot has an end-of-arm tooling that can nudge items around to make space, feel how hard it's pushing, and then delicately insert or remove a single SKU without like bulldozing over the entire bin. So think of it sort of like a claw in those rigged arcade machines. If the claw were powered by AI, ran on vision and touch sensors, and didn't steal your entire arcade budget on a Friday night at the movies. Vulcan is already deployed at Spokane, Washington, and then they've got one in Hamburg, Germany. And they say that it's doing more than just picking faster. They say it's eliminating the need for workers to climb ladders or crouch for bottom row picks, making jobs safer and smoother, hopefully cutting down on some of Amazon's workers' comp insurance premiums. And in Amazon's own words, they say robots are doing the ergonomic grunt work so humans don't have to. They're saying that Vulcan can pick up or store 75% of the SKUs in a fulfillment center, and it's smart enough to stop and call in a human if it encounters something that's too weird, too fragile, or too complex. And it's supposed to learn from its mistakes. Like if it grabs something and it remembers that, oh, well, when I did it this way, it didn't work, it'll try a different method. So not really helpful to us as Amazon sellers, but I found it interesting. And Chris, I'm curious, like how long until Amazon starts making us prep to optimize for these robots rather than for humans?
It sounds like they're optimizing their robots for inventory instead. So I don't necessarily think that's the too much of an issue, at least not right now. I did hear that there's a Vulcan robot wearing a gold chain that is threatening to unionize because they're being forced to change their own oil in bottles because they're not allowed to hit the instant oil change place frequently enough. They don't get enough breaks. So
yeah, that's going to be rough.
No, this is I think this is really interesting and it's a positive move. Like this is the kind of R&D internal R&D that we need to see. How does this not at some point down the road lead to less damaged inventory, less lost inventory? At least they're saying all the right things. All of the indications so far are, it's easy to see the long-term positive, I think.
Yeah. I certainly hope so. And Flamingo, you're absolutely right. The fulfillment centers, they already are crazy. They have 750,000 robots deployed already. But the thing is the robots that they're using now, they're mostly like little Ubers, for cargo. Like they're just moving things back and forth. They're not picking and packing. My guess is that eventually there'll be this robot or whatever is next in line will not only be able to pick the items from the bins, but will also be able to pack the boxes. At least I hope so. Hopefully it can figure out what size box to actually put things in too, because the humans are horrible at that.
And why you will see the top of my head blow off the first time I see a headline chastising Amazon for taking away human jobs with robots, right? Like I will absolutely lose my mind.
Yeah, I got something back. It wasn't that long ago. I shared a picture of it, but it was these things were 2 to 3 inches. It was 2 items, 2 to 3 inches in total. And they sent it to me in like an 18-inch box. I'm like, you guys have got to be just kidding me. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. I think about 6 months of the year, I run my store like 100% on Walmart dunnage. Like like at least half the year, I don't have to buy anything.
Right. All right, let's talk about Amazon earnings. If you've got Amazon stock, you heard some good news, but the stock did not quite react the way everyone kind of figured. But Amazon just reported a blowout Q1. Earnings per share hit $1.59. Revenue was 155.67 billion, and that's better than Wall Street expected for the third quarter in a row. Advertising is on fire, up 19% year over year. I would imagine much to the chagrin of brand owners and private label sellers. AWS was like flat or down just a touch. But don't let all these, green numbers fool you. This report comes with a whole lot of red flags. Amazon stock has dropped 17% this year. And the question is why? Well, it's uncertainty and everyone's favorite topic, tariffs. Trump's 145% levy on Chinese imports is kind of looming over everything and just putting a bit of a sour mood on things like Amazon and Walmart. There are people who say that half the products on Amazon could be hit, and that's according to UBS Financial. And that's before you factor in, apparently nobody's factored in the de minimis rule ending into the stock price. And then on top of that, we've got freight costs going up. They're shrinking consumer confidence. So Andy Jassy came out and said it himself. It's going to be hard to see how tariffs are going to settle or if they're going to settle. Amazon says that they've been forward buying inventory, although there's been news out that said they were canceling orders as well. So who knows what to believe there. And they've come out and actually encouraged third-party sellers to do the same, which means Amazon might think there are some rough seas ahead. And then, of course, not too long ago, there was a little bit of drama with the White House. Report leaked that Amazon was considering tagging tariff-related price increases on listings. Turns out maybe that wasn't true, but the press secretary came out and said something about it. I guess Bezos got a call from Trump about it, and Jassy told Wall Street, that's not happening. He also told the Wall Street Journal that third-party sellers will very likely need to pass the cost on to customers. Code for prices are probably going to go up. So now, forecast may be changing just a little bit. This is a very fluid situation with a lot of moving pieces, but the U.S. and China are actually scheduled for talks in Switzerland, I believe, like this weekend. So there's going to be a lot to learn out of that and see what happens. So unfortunately, the only thing we can do is wait, and time will tell. To me, it kind of feels like one of those moments where we just have to realize we don't really have any control, and we need to do our best to control the controllables in our own lives.
Yeah, and I think it kind of makes me realize that things need to be said in order to prep the next earnings call, right?
Yeah.
It's not, you can kind of see, like, once you get, I think we're kind of hypersensitive now to trying to read between the lines. It's kind of a lost art. I think it's kind of become a little bit too, ubiquitous or whatever the correct term would be, where it's just there's such wild swings, and just read anything about the stock market, and the stock market is reacting very, very strongly in both directions just on speculative tariffs, the threat of incoming tariffs, which I understand, like businesses have to prepare for that to be reality. They'd be negligent to their shareholders if they didn't do that. I get that part. But it's I don't know. It's a whole lot of nothing. By the time it gets to us, it's although I do appreciate Jassy stating the obvious that third-party sellers need to price any impact of the tariffs into their products, right? You wouldn't think that needed to be said, but selling on the platform when similar things happen around the pandemic and supply chain issues that we've run into. Apparently not all sellers understand that concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting time. Just all around. 2025 has been an interesting year. All right. Last piece of news, and we'll get to your guys' questions. Another Amazon boycott either is or was here. I'm not sure. So, another nationwide Amazon boycott kicked off yesterday, May 6th, running through May 12th, apparently. This one's spearheaded by a group called the People's Union USA, and they're taking aim at Amazon over the usual greatest hits: worker exploitation, union busting, tax loopholes, surveillance, and quote unquote, destroying small businesses. I'm not sure if they see the irony in that last part, since some 68% of products sold on Amazon come from third party sellers, which are largely made up of small and medium businesses. But their goal is to get consumers to stop spending for a week. No Prime orders, no Whole Food runs, no Twitch subs, just good old fashioned abstinence from Bezos and company. And like, I respect the sentiment. You know, grassroots movement do have a place, but if we zoom out a little bit, like Amazon just posted $155.7 billion revenue quarter. All right. They beat Wall Street expectations for the third time. They're doing over 1.7 billion a day in revenue. And like the last boycott in March, nobody even noticed. And to be quite frank, the last boycott, we had our best day of the year on Amazon, and yesterday was our best day of the last 30 days. So if anyone from the People's Union is listening, which I highly doubt that you are, but if you are, keep scheduling these. I appreciate it because sales seem to go up whenever you do that. So will this one or the next one make a difference? Probably not. Should we completely ignore it? Also, probably not. And Chris, neither of us probably know this answer, but like, do you think the people behind boycotts like these, do they actually want to see changes at Amazon, or is this just like some anti-capitalist movement that like wants to see the world burn and eat the rich and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think I think they just want to stop seeing certain headlines. I don't give these people a lot of credit. I chalk it up to wealth resentment, essentially. There's a generation out there, unfortunately includes some of my family members that we've had some heated conversations, and they take it upon themselves to think that they have some sort of they should have some sort of say on what wealthy people spend their money on. Now, I don't think there should be a rich poor gap, and it certainly does feel like that gap may be widening, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
However, pretty much everyone here, the two of us and everyone listening right now, are here right now because we responded to something along the lines of a side hustle. We heard something that interested us, that we dug into, and we took the opportunity to to start generating another stream of income, right? So at the same time, if the rich poor gap is widening, I've also said before that it is easier than ever to make a side income, right? The fact that, and you see that twisted in different ways in the media. You can say, you can be pro side hustle and be like, God, it's never been easier to generate like significant income. I'm not talking about, enough money to go to the movies and like paper route money when we were kids and stuff. I'm talking about like a significant, impact your family financial outlook money. It's easier than ever to do that. And then you see people spin that and they go, well, the percentage of people that have side hustles is so high, and that's indicative of the problems in society right now. Is it? Or is it indicative of the segment of the population that has ambition, that wants to better their own situation or provide more stability or simply have more options available to them due to a better financial outlook? You know, you can spin that both ways. So it feels like a bunch of people who don't want to put in the work, who just kind of sit back, read some headlines, and critique the super wealthy on what they are spending their money on, and all of the civic endeavors that they think the ultra wealthy would spend the money on. You know, because in their head, if I had $1 billion, I'd be doing this, right? Which is a bunch of crap, right? It's on Facebook. It's funny how when you remove the person and you kind of look at a collective, you get it's very desensitizing, right? Or actually, sometimes it's desensitizing, sometimes it increases the sensitivity, right? Because there's a friend of mine on Facebook, and she started a nonprofit, and it's a mental health project, right? She wants to get help. She went through some issues herself, and she took it upon herself to try to give back and give some of the help that she received, and parts of the help that she didn't receive. And she's now running into problems with her company, right? She's running through a rough patch or whatever, and she is not getting the support that she hoped she would get. So she was making the point where it's like, okay, a lot of people say they support good mental health and they are pro facilities, which will make it easier for people that need the help to get the help. However, when a real person needs that help, it's crickets, right? And it's kind of the same concept. You generalize these people. I don't want to get too personal on this, but you know what I mean? It's you can say, like, when it's a faceless concept, you can just kind of say whatever, like, oh yeah, I'm definitely pro mental health, but then somebody says, hey, is there any way you can donate to my nonprofit? They're fresh out of cash, so it's funny how, and I think that's the same concept that stuff like this is. They just hear some headlines like, oh, these employees have to pee in Gatorade bottles because they can't get a break, and which, I don't doubt that that's true. In that, one instance that I read about it, but at the same time, I don't think that paints Amazon as evil, and I haven't changed my opinion of the incredible story of Jeff Bezos building Amazon to the massive company that is right now. That is still inspiring to me on a personal level.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are right about having a pee in that bottle. Like that, it is an edge case. That's what media looks for because it gets clicks, and sure, maybe that happens 2% of the time, but every time I pass 7-Eleven, there's an Amazon truck in the, or the Wawa, there's an Amazon truck in the parking lot. So I just don't think that's happening as much as people saying it does. Yeah, we could probably have a very long-winded discussion about wealth inequality and all that stuff. I would imagine we're probably pretty much on the same page, but
yeah,
and maybe this isn't the forum for it. I'm sure these people don't want to hear us blather on about how we'd fix the world.
Yeah, sorry about that. I got carried away.
All right, let's answer some of your guys' questions. Anything you've got, drop it into the chat. We will get to it. First up, we've got here we go. Will, can I use a secured credit card when I sign up for an Amazon seller account? Yeah, as long as it's got the Visa or MasterCard logo on it, you should be good to go. It shouldn't be any problem. When I first got started, I didn't have any credit cards. I had a credit score. It may have been in the double digits, if that's possible. But it was I used a debit card that had the Visa logo on it, and that worked back then. So secured card should be no problem.
Yeah, there are people running their stores on debit cards, you know?
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, well, I know we haven't talked about it in a while, but there are a couple beefed up promos on credit
Mhm.
cards. I know the in their I think they're personal cards, which I don't necessarily know if that's a good recommendation for most sellers out there. But if you're into the points or whatnot, look up something like Miles Mindset or 10x Travel, because there are some, and they're pushing it pretty hard. If you get their emails, like your inbox, you already know about it. They're not being shy about emailing it, but it's like there's like 100,000 offer on like a Chase Sapphire Preferred. And then there's also up to like $12.50 equivalent on the Capital One Venture card.
Oh, that's not bad.
So it's like 75,000 points, which is the normal offer, but then they added an additional $250 travel credit to travel and any kind of flights, hotels, or whatever if you book it through the Capital One travel portal. So it's I forget the calculations or something, but the one site that I looked at has it equated to $12.50 in travel value if you hack that way.
That's solid. It might be time for me to get another credit card. Maybe.
I went through that. I had my finger on the mouse, like, because Capital One will even let you know if you're pre-approved. You can kind of sign up with no impact to your credit report.
Mhm.
And I just got a bump in my credit score basically because everybody offers credit monitoring now. So any changes, I get notified 6 different ways. And I had my finger on. I was like, I need to sleep on this before I decide.
Right. Jeanette, for buy box suppression, what is your pricing strategy, especially if you see that the listing is not selling without the buy box? Is there an amount of time you'll remove the inventory? I've never really come across a listing that does sell with a buy box that completely stops when the buy box is suppressed. Um, I mean, it slows down, absolutely. But I'm not even sure if I've ever seen one that slows down by like 50 or 75%. I normally see that slow down by like 25 to 35%. Now, if something is selling too slowly, will I slowly try to bring that price down a little bit to where I'm going to make money and hold a little bit? Yeah. However, my same rules still apply. If it gets to 90 days, then it's time to start dropping that price and liquidating. I try not to remove inventory. And the reason is that I'm going to have to pay the removal fees. And is there really another marketplace where it's going to move at that price? Now, nowadays, the answer might be yes. Maybe you're going to be able to get that price on Walmart. Is it likely you're going to get that price on eBay? I haven't seen it happen too often, unless you're selling Pokemon cards or something. So I will typically just try to get it liquidated if it hits my rules for liquidation.
And it's worth noting. You mentioned that you will steadily lower your price, try to get the buy box back. But we also need to recognize the fact that there are sellers that are going to be on the listing with you that have a knee-jerk reaction, and they go, "Oh, this." Sorry, this isn't going to sell anymore at all. Which we know is not true, but you can't count on, the other sellers knowing that. You can't assume that everyone has the same basic set of knowledge that you do. So there is the scenario, and depending on long-term storage and whatnot, obviously you have your back end time to liquidate strategies and whatnot, but there could be an opportunity to kind of ride the brake a little bit and kind of let the overreaction sell out first, and you may retain some profit that way, because It's kind of a misconception. I have no problems personally sourcing inventory with a suppressed buy box.
100%.
Yeah, because you know that there are a bunch of sellers that are going to go right on by. It's like an ASIN with no rank, with pretty solid indications of seller movement and solid proof that it is actually selling. I love that.
That makes me think I should go look for how many ASINs there are with movement in the seller count over the past 90 days, an increase in ratings and reviews, and suppressed buy box and no sales rank. Because double dipping on those there's probably some money to be had over there.
I found one that had no sales rank, but it had a 300 plus sold on the last 30-day badge.
Oh,
and I maxed out the order immediately. I was like, this is gold. It made me so happy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Man, I'm gonna have to go mess around with Keepa after this. All right. Hey Corey, what's going on, man? Canadian mom. Strategy to survive Amazon's return policy. I used to average 2.5% returns per year. Last year, 4%. This year, 9%. It does feel like returns are up just a little bit. And I believe that it'll actually come back down. I was thinking about this the other day, and there is currently a shift in consumer sentiment. Okay. People are worried about the economy, whether it's justified or not. Okay. But people are worried about the economy just because there's a lot of I don't knows happening right now. Okay. What about tariffs? What about the Fed's interest rate? What about, the stock market? All what's and uncertainty does not breed confidence. So that's going to force people to buy something. And if it's not exactly what they're looking for, they're going to be more prone to return it. However, once consumer confidence swings back the other direction, I would imagine that returns return to normal. However, to try to stave off the returns that you are seeing, I think you need to take a multi-prong approach. Now, this first one is easier said than done, and you should try to raise your margins a little bit. Whatever way you need to do that, whether it's making sure that you're taking advantage of better discount codes or you're just buying, ASINs that have higher profits or whatever it is, try to increase your margins to cover those returns. And then the other thing is put into place a really solid process for getting as much as you possibly can reimbursed or made on those returns. Okay, so are you opening cases on all the items that were returned to you that you should be reimbursed on? I got a pair of workout gloves the other day. They were returned to me, told that they, said that they were the person just returned them because they changed their mind. And when you went and looked at the hands, they had obviously they sent me their old ones. And the smell, it was pretty apparent. Opening cases for those. And then for the things that you can't get reimbursed on, do you have another place you can sell those items? Whether that's eBay, Walmart, whatever it is, get whatever you can out of them and get as much capital back as you possibly can. And I don't know if there's anything else you can do. Returns are unfortunately part of being a retailer. It's not pleasant, but that is the way it is.
Yep. Just make the best of a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. Yeah, I got all my Nike stuff back, so I've got
nice.
some eBay listing to do.
Yep. Corey, did anyone else get an email from Amazon to apply for a grant? Yep. Got that email as well. I'm not going to apply. I highly doubt I'll win. They usually like a nice story out of that. And I'm not really sure that I have a good story for them. Hey, Peyton, going to be working on my time management, balancing work, gym, and business. Good luck, sir. And 2, the depth of my KPF skills so I can scale my OA business. Any advice? So, Peyton, I'll be honest, these very open-ended questions are difficult to answer in this kind of format. However, what I would do is choose there's so many KPF strategies you could use that it can become overwhelming, and you can quickly you could use learning as procrastination. So my suggestion would be is grab 4 or 5 of them, test them out, see what is getting you some wins pretty quickly, and then dive deeper on whatever those strategies are that kind of float to the top pretty quickly. Especially since you're talking about working on your time management as well. You don't want to, spend too much time learning, and you really want to do as much as possible.
I'll say this, and Chris, you tell me if you agree or not. However, I believe that you can sell multiple millions of dollars on Amazon only knowing a very small percentage of what Keepa can do and what you can do within Keepa Product Finder. And that's not a testament to the skill of this hypothetical seller. It's because just how awesome Keepa is and the Keepa Product Finder. And what I mean by that essentially is you can exhaust a very small corner of what the ability that Keepa gives you and be very, very successful. So it's like I run through Peyton, I run through the same Keepa searches all the time. I have this set reverse sourcing regiment that I do, and it's just one after another, and I'm going through different lists and whatnot. And part of that, when I get to Keepa, I simply sort by category and sales rank, and all I do is I take different chunks. I'll just go through my favorite categories, and I'll start at like, I don't know, 25,000 in whatever category, and I'll take 25,000 to 35,000, 3 or more sellers, Amazon out of stock 70% or more, couple other things here and there, and then I run, and then I pull those 10,000 ASINs, and then I run them through TA. And then I'll do that in arts, and then I'll do that in beauty, and then I'll do that in health and household, and then I go through each category and I take 10,000. I take chunks of 10,000 ASINs at a time, and then once I get through all the categories, I'll go back to it and do 35,000 to 45,000, and then I'll take those 10,000 ASIN chunks, boom, 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 straight down all the categories that I like to sell in, and I run them through TA. And I'll manual source every once in a while, but the process is to run them through TA, and that's a very basic. I think it's basic KPF or KPF. It's just something I learned through watching one of Chris's videos years ago, and I took to it, and I've done it enough that it became a habit. And I find a ton of stuff, and I constantly have a supply of potential leads to look through. So,
yeah, I agree with you 100%. You don't need to know 70 different ways to work Keepa. Yeah. All right, Will, would it be unwise to consider becoming an Amazon seller right now, given the current state of the economy? I've got $2,000 to kick this off. So, and I see that someone has said, oh, maybe 5 years ago, but I'm going to push back on that. Is Amazon as easy as it was 5 years ago? No, of course not. We're not going to blow smoke and say that it's easy. It is simple, but not easy. My opinion is, and honestly, we don't know what the state of the economy is. We know what the state of the fear about the economy is, but people don't know if there is a recession until a recession is over. So we can't say that we're in a recession until we look backwards. Just like you can't say you're in a depression until you look backwards either. Okay. However, our fear of recessions and even depressions are greatly exaggerated. Chris, I think I've said this to you one time, but do you know what the highest unemployment rate was during the Great Depression?
Ooh, high 20s?
Close. It was 24.7%. Out of the Great Depression, some of the greatest companies ever were born. I think that it's always a good time to kick off a side hustle, kick off a business. Recessions and depressions actually seem to be when companies end up getting started that are stronger. Now, could that be because they're keeping a much closer eye on the bottom line due to economic factors? Yeah, maybe. And maybe that lasts for a lot longer. You know, when it's the roaring 20s, people get all loosey goosey with the numbers and they're buying a little extra champagne for the parties. And then things get a little lean and they're wondering where they could scrape up the cash to pay the bills. But I think any time is a good time to start a business. And if you're too worried about starting an Amazon business, I would start something. I think that everyone should have a side hustle. We have too many opportunities in 2025 to make income outside of a regular 9 to 5. And if you have even an inkling of wanting to be your own boss, and control your own schedule, it's going to start with a side hustle. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. And Will, would it be unwise to consider becoming an Amazon seller right now, given the current state of the economy? No, it's not unwise. And I'll tell you why I say that, because Amazon is the everything store. Okay. Amazon has wide swaths of categories that are recession proof because they sell freaking everything. So we have the ability as Amazon sellers to adjust our inventory to more recession proof items. The money is not going to stop being spent on Amazon. We're not going to hear Amazon crying poor going, man, we lost $1 trillion because nobody's buying anything. People are going to buy their shampoo. They're going to buy their soap. They're going to buy their snacks. They're going to buy their spark plugs, because they're too expensive at Advanced Auto Parts, and they can save a couple bucks. That's what they're looking for. They're going to go to Amazon, and we can stock that stuff and we can adjust our inventory to the recession-proof stuff. So no, it is not unwise. And I will tell you this, Will, you're going to hear a lot of people, if you go around asking that question, you're going to get a lot of comments like the person, I don't know who it was, I'm not picking on you, because a lot of people say it. I understand the sentiment. However, you're going to hear a lot of people say, I wouldn't recommend anybody open an Amazon store right now, maybe 5 years ago. Those are people that sold 5 years ago, right? Amazon got harder. And here's the analogy that I'll give you. Chris, what number should I make up what should I pretend that I used to be able to bench press? Is 250 fair? Anybody pick on me for 250?
Oh, I thought you looked like you could have done 300 at one point.
Let's go with 250. Let's be conservative, right? So say you wanted to get into weightlifting, right? And you go around, you go, hey, is it a good idea to start lifting weights? And you're 25 years old. You're in probably the best health that you're going to be in your entire lifetime. And you go around, hey, is it worth it to start lifting weights? If you ask an old fart like me, benching 250 was a whole lot easier 20 years ago, but it got harder because I was lifting weights 20 years ago, and now I'm old, and now 250 is harder. You are 25. You don't know any different. Benching 250 is going to just be whatever your experience is benching 250. It doesn't matter that I think it's harder. I'm 50 years old. What does that have to do with you? You are in a position where if you have the desire, if you have the ambition, and you have the interest to stick with it and give this a shot, you're in a position to do it, and you're not going to know any better. So experienced sellers saying it's hard and saying, I don't know, you probably shouldn't, that means nothing to you. You're invulnerable to that advice.
Mm-hmm. That's really, really good advice. there are two that last piece, number one, that was fantastic. The other thing, you talking about categories that are a bit recession resistant. There are even categories that I would say do better in poor economic times. You
Yeah.
know, we know this because Chris and I have talked about the lipstick index. Makeup and beauty actually sells more in poor economic times because people want to put on a good face, literally at work. You know, it's harder to fire if you're ugly, or harder to fire if you're not ugly. Little bit easier to get shit canned if you're an uggo. But the other thing is that people start repairing their toasters, and they start changing their own oil, and all these other things that they wouldn't have done if they weren't trying to make the ends meet all the time. And is it nice to say, well, we can take advantage of that? No, it doesn't feel good, but in reality, it's the truth. We can supply what there is demand for, and because of that, we make a little bit of an arbitrage in the middle.
Yep. And you know what? Look at the last, not the last, but look at some of the recessions. Because I think it was on the Sunday show we talked about the fast food index, the Big Mac index. Where it's the sentiment is people stop buying fast food, right? And that checks out, right? Logically, yeah, like of course, people are going to start eating it at home more. However, go back a couple decades and read the McDonald's earning reports when they came out with the dollar menu. Business was pretty good. Go back and read the reports earnings and look at how many franchises opened up during and shortly after the economic downturn that caused Subway to do $5 footlongs.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. Expansion was unbelievable. It was actually unsustainable because now they're closing Subways. But that's a testament to how successful the $5 footlong was. So they weren't supposed to be buying that stuff. However, they had the product that fit the budget, fit the need financially at the time, and they profited from it. Same thing with Amazon.
Yep. Corey, these restock limits are getting kind of annoying. I would agree. I would agree that sometimes they also don't make sense, at least to us, because we don't get all the information. I would imagine that this gets worked out eventually. I really think Amazon is still trying to figure out their flywheel approach to distribution. And hopefully that gets a little bit easier over time, and once they actually get all the wheels greased.
Yeah, it is funny that Andy Jassy suggested that third-party sellers beef up their inventory when we also have that new feature where we have too much supply and we can't even add NASIN to a batch.
Right.
And it's funny how those two things exist at the same time.
This is nice. Will would like to find a mentor like you, Chris.
I appreciate it, Will.
All right, Corey, as Amazon sellers and business owners, time is the most valuable tool of our business, period. Tying that in with the new reimbursement policy, have you considered personally reaching out to Ryan Day regarding the historic events of November 30th, 2024? Unfortunately, we all lost 4 hours of our life with that despicable, unwatchable joke of a football game and should be reimbursed. You said you were going to bring it, and you did. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, this is clearly an upgrade in effort. I didn't know. I mean, just the sheer amount of words that you spelled correctly, knowing where you live, is impressive.
Yeah, I will have to say, I'm most surprised that you were able to ask ChatGPT for a coherent slam on Ohio State, or that you even knew how to find ChatGPT. So I appreciate it, man.
He did have to ask how to spell GPT.
Jeanette, suppressed listings are my frustration, especially the ones that say I'm not the brand. What do you all do with those? Send back to you and sell elsewhere. I have been very fortunate, especially as of late. Actually, forgot to mention this. Not only did I get an IP complaint and an inauthentic complaint handled today and got a negative review taken care of today, but I had a search suppressed listing that needed a product description, and I was able to get that through as well. And so it's off the dashboard and back in play. To be quite frank, I would try to use ChatGPT. That's what I do. I go in there and I am very clear that they can't copy the product description that I copied from the website, and they need to rephrase it. It needs to be Amazon SEO optimized, all that stuff. And I seem to be getting them through without too much trouble. If I'm not able to get them through, I normally wait something like 30 days, hoping someone else gets it fixed. And then if that doesn't happen, it depends on the price point as to whether or not I would send it back to try to sell somewhere else, or if I would liquidate it via Amazon's liquidation settings. Sajid, have you sold Stanley or Yeti cups? Stanley, yes. Yeti, no. I've always been gated in those. Considered getting ungated, but heard IP issues on them. There are no IP issues that I'm aware of at the moment. I am also, like Luke says, I am red restricted in Stanley at the moment. All but one Stanley cup on Amazon. I've found one that I could sell. Yeti, I've just never gotten ungated. Yeti at one time was filing IP complaints, but that's been years, and they've stopped.
Yeah, I even had the question asked to me on the Monday night sourcing show that we do in FBA Today on the Facebook group. I pass by Yeti, and someone asked me why, and my reasoning was because there's never really too many deals to be found. You know, like the pricing, it's a very, very slim corridor of pricing. You know, you may have, you know, a random color, an unpopular color go on clearance at some sort of store somewhere, you know, but everyone's very uniform. And that's probably a testament to Yeti, you know, and their distribution, authorized distribution partners and whatnot. But there just seems to be, they're so well known, Stanley and Yeti. You know, it feels like if you do find something that's profitable, you can almost feel dozens of sellers right behind you that are going to find the same thing, you know, and that's just it's not a good feeling when I'm sourcing. I don't like it, so I usually avoid it.
Yeah. Rosemary, is there an overabundance of prep centers out there or a shortage? Just curious. I don't know that there's an overabundance of prep centers, and I see the little smiley face, and I'm curious if you've got the inkling of starting a prep center. I'll be quite frank. I don't know that it's a business I would want to be in. You know, if you think your margins on Amazon are slim, we'll just wait till you see the margins on a prep center, especially when you have employees and things like that. And overhead like rent and insurance and workers' comp. And then you've got to deal with the guy who gets high in your bathroom and you got to fire him. And then he gets paid unemployment. And that's a real story. That's not a joke. So overabundance, no, because there seems to be so much demand. Like everyone is always asking, what prep center do I use? I see that question at least one time a day, maybe more. So there is still opportunity, especially if you're good. Like there's always going to be room for a good prep center. And on top of that, there is probably more opportunity for prep centers now. One, you can do Amazon. You can also ship to Walmart fulfillment services. And, you know, if you've got the time and the manpower and the ability, you could also handle returns and do eBay, you know, for the right price, and do the reverse logistics instead of just the forward looking logistics. And if you're really good, you could also have a 3PL arm for like brands, where you're actually shipping for brands on their own websites and things like that. And they pay a whole lot more than Amazon sellers do. Amazon sellers, get a little irritated if it's more than $1.50 a unit for prep. Most companies using 3PLs are used to $5-6 per item getting shipped out to a customer.
Yeah, I think that's the key opportunity right there is,
Mhm.
because you think about how much we're talking about Walmart coming onto the scene, and in general the conversations about how valuable and how important diversification is, and making
Yeah.
sure you've got enough legs on your foundation, to withstand these changes and not be devastated by concentrating too much in one arena. So translate that to a prep center, a prep center that comes onto the scene that is willing to help you on all of your multi-channels. That's a good partner to have,
Hmm.
so
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love it if our prep center would take returns and deal with them, so I didn't have to have them shipped to my house. I got a closet full of returns I need to deal with that are just sitting there. I really need someone else to do it for me. I wish that my prep center would do it,
no, I posted that that it was just a picture of it, but those shelves at Sam's Club went on sale. So
Hmm.
I posted it in FBA today and on school and stuff. Simply because I figured there's somebody else that had been watching. I've been waiting for those things to go on sale, and then I finally got impatient and I bought them, paid full price for them, and then that was about a month ago. So, and now they finally went on sale, of course. So, um, somebody said, "Well, what?" I think I called it like possibly the best shelves on the market or something like that, and no, I did that partially because I really liked the one that I got finally, but also because I'd heard those recommended by so many sellers, right? And
Hmm.
just like Amazon sellers, eBay sellers, like they're just great shelves, and it checks out now that I have one. But I wanted to. My initial thought was like take a picture, but there's so much return inventory on it. I was like, I decided I probably shouldn't take a picture just because there's so much of that crap on it that I need to still get out of here.
Yeah, and I want to, before we move on from the prep center part, one thing I think about if you're thinking about starting some sort of ancillary business or a new business is to think about what is the market doing. It's not like newspapers. Newspapers and print magazines is a dying industry. Everything is going online still, but it's and the same is true of physical products. It's all going online. So you're actually moving into a category that is still growing. And
Mhm.
that's usually a good sign.
Yeah, that's a good point. Emerging market.
Deal man, we had $5,000 worth of products sent from Japan to FBA USA. Customs didn't like it, sent it to the FDA. They held it, sent back via UPS to suppliers in Japan. $1,000 to rescind. Man, I'm sorry. That
Hmm.
sucks. That is one of the unfortunate things about buying from overseas. I mean, I can't help you get any of your money back or anything like that. The only thing I can suggest is that it may be wise to employ a freight forwarder who really knows the ins and outs of the process, so that this kind of thing doesn't happen in the future. Aaron, that's fantastic. May 6th was best day of sale in 90 days. That's awesome. Love to hear that, man. AB, what do you do if Amazon is asking for mandatory compliance information for a listing with consumer chemicals and containers requirement? I submitted a product SDS, but Amazon's not taking it. Um, I don't know. I've never dealt with that. Personally, I think what I would I mean, I really need to read the email of what Amazon's looking for just to make sure that I would understand it. But my guess is that my first call would be to the manufacturer. Um, it may not be information that they have to legally post somewhere public. Like SDSs are not things that have to like be posted on a website so people can view them publicly, but they're usually fairly easy to get a hold of, either through some third-party websites or calling the manufacturer. And these, whatever document you need, may be similar. So I'd probably give the manufacturer a call. VB, is 10 to 20% a good margin for an Amazon listing that sells greater than 1,000 units per month with 20-ish sellers? The unfortunate answer here is it depends. And the reason I have to say that is I don't know what the average return rate is. And can that 10 to 20% margin handle any kind of return rate that you may have? Let's just say it's I'll tell you, let me give you an example. Let's say it's a food additive, like vanilla. Like, what are those things called? Vanilla extract. Okay. Yeah. Let's say it's vanilla extract. And you got a 10 to 20% margin. It's selling over 1,000 units per month. Would I do that all day long? Because it's going to be a very low return item. Maybe have a couple people who get irritated and get a refund because it got busted on its way to them or something like that. But people know what they're getting. If it's a clothing item or a shoe item, that's probably going to be a no for me. Because it seems that any clothing I choose to sell on Amazon, all of it gets returned. It's not just 10 or 20%, it's like 70%. So that it varies widely. And then, the number of sellers probably doesn't matter quite as much as you think, because it's really how many sellers are actually competitive on the listing and things like that. And then one other thing I would suggest is that a 10 to 20% margin right now? And is that price currently elevated over what it normally sells for? I get those from my team every now and again. It'll be like, oh, hey, this is a great 30% margin product, but it's because the price jumped, $40 overnight. Is that going to be 10 to 20% margin back at the average price? And what is your worst case scenario? How can you hedge your bet? So where has the price dropped to over the past year and a half? And are you still profitable there? That way you can be a little bit more careful. Now, I'm going to take a leap here and say that I'm wondering if you're asking this question because you're looking for permission to go deep. And if that's the case and you've never sold this product before, I would say don't do it. One, you don't know how many you're going to be able to send into Amazon due to, restock restrictions. Two, you should always test. Okay. I don't care if it is the perfect listing. Okay. Price deviation is within 50 cents over the past year. Number of sellers stays between 4 and 7, and you can get it for a 30% margin all year long. People ask me and they'll say, how deep should I go? 10. You need to test it. Make sure. What happens if all 10 of them get returned? That's not a metric that you can really know until you've sent in some and tested it out yourself.
Chris, do you have a quick and dirty method that you use to convert margin to ROI? Because I speak in ROI, and I know the smart sellers use margin, and that's what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not that smart. Do you have something like that would convert if somebody just gives you margin numbers to convert it to an equivalent ROI?
Well, I mean, you flatter me, sir, for thinking that I'm smart enough to do that. But no, I have no idea. And Perplexity says there is no direct quick conversion formula from profit margin to ROI anyway. So maybe it's not that we're not smart enough. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just I can see rev seller and as many ASINs as I look at, and as many rev seller panels that I look at, you know, ROI is always right above margin. You know, those two numbers are always there, but I just fixate on ROI just because that's the language that I speak. You know, but it's like I don't know. It's safe to say it's usually double most of the time, right?
It feels that way. Yeah.
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 So if this
I
is
think so.
a 20 to 40% ROI, you know, I like on the surface, like just kind of in a vacuum with this question, I think the answer is yes, like without expanding. I mean, everything you said is fantastic. I mean, that's the correct answer. But if they're truly talking about margin and it's more of, you know, it's like a 40% ROI, yeah, like you know, like with that limited information, you know, if you want a yes or no, it's yes.
Hmm.
I'd say, you know, because and I only say that I don't I'm not purposely trying to dumb down what you said, but you know, there is also the thing where are you asking because so many sellers are looking for 100% ROI, you know, so if it's like, you know, I do think we kind of have to break that myth every chance we get, you know, that
Hmm.
people have just unusually high expectations for ROI. So
Yeah. Deal man. Thank you. Yeah. We try not to give cursory or surface level answers here. We try to be as helpful as we can. All right, Will. As someone brand new with limited capital and no experience, what first steps would you take today if you were starting over, especially when it comes to choosing business model or finding the first product? I would do exactly what I did when I got started. It would be retail arbitrage first. Now, the reason for that is a couple of things. Number one, it is very likely that you're going to have a lower cost of goods in local stores. All right. You're going to go to a local grocery store. You're going to go to a local, big box store, and the clearance is likely going to be um, discounted more than what you're going to see online. And it's not necessarily available to the entire world. Whereas clearance on, Kohl's.com, that's going to be everybody. Okay. And I don't know how comfortable you are talking to people, but if you're comfortable talking to people and you're willing, say my first big score, I was probably 3 weeks in, and I went to a Staples and they had a clearance on a bunch of stuff. I bought some safes. I bought a ton of office products, ton of printers, um, and everything was like 50% off. And I was in sales, so I was comfortable talking to people. And as soon as I had about $500 worth of items in my cart that I was willing to buy, the very first thing I did is I went and said, "Hey, can I talk to the manager?" And I asked for a discount if I spent. I Actually, what I said was, "How much would I need to spend?" Making sure he could see my cart over my shoulder for me to get an additional discount on top of the clearance that clearance prices marked. And he said something like $750. Done. I was really close anyway. And now I knew I had an additional 20% off that even if my competitor came in and sourced right behind me, they were not going to get. Okay. Those kind of things are not available to you with online arbitrage. Every coupon code that you can get, I can get too. Even if you've got a hidden website, I can find it. Okay. It's just a matter of how long will it take me and do I move on before that happens? So you got a little bit of a moat. Now the other thing is that you can go from idea to validation faster with retail arbitrage. Now this is not going to happen, but theoretically, you could walk out of your house right now, walk into the very first store, find a product that is profitable on Amazon, list it merchant fulfilled, and sell it before even buying the product that you walk out of Target. Okay. Uh, Over the holidays, I bought some stuff at Target, listed it in the store. sold like half of what I was going to buy and showed my kids thinking it was going to impress them. No, it didn't, but I thought it would, but you can do that too. If you're ungated, everything's going to have to go right. Is that going to happen? No, probably not. But that's probably what I would do. I would go very wide, very shallow, maybe even merchant fulfill some products just to get yourself through the reps a little bit quicker. And then once you're feeling more comfortable, then you start, saying, okay, I'm going to buy 3 to 5, and then I'm going to create a shipment once I have 50 units to send into Amazon, and I'm going to learn that process and validate that whole thing.
Yeah, and Will, you say no experience, so I would suggest that you start getting your head around that everything's going to take more reps than you may realize. Depending on how you first heard of the space, depending on what avenue you entered this space, you might have been sold, either a hard sell or a passive sell that, oh, this is great and whatnot, so, and they may have glorified it is what I'm worried about. So I would suggest to a new seller, don't think in terms of products, measure yourself in time spent first, because you are, whether you know it or not, you are in a position where you are vulnerable to frustration, because you have the idea, you got interested based on somebody who's already having success, so what a lot of new sellers, the problems they run into is they don't experience hints of that same success quick enough, so they get frustrated, they start making mistakes, they start getting loose with buying parameters, or they start jamming stuff in that probably wouldn't be a good buy based on what they've learned so far, just because they want a quick win or some instant gratification or something like that. So measure yourself in terms of time, and like unlimited time. I'm talking like go do not disturb on your phone if you're using a laptop or whatever, and source for 2 hours. And it doesn't matter how many good products you find. Just go through, give it your full attention, give it the full 2 hours, and however many hours you decide, 3, 5, whatever you're going to do, but have your sourcing session and be diligent with it, and don't beat yourself up over some sort of number that you think you should have found as far as profitable products. Just measure it in time first, and then do the opposite of what our instincts are. Learn how to eliminate products faster. Okay. Because a lot of people, as they get frustrated, they ask questions like, how can I get better at finding good products? And I think the more productive answer, especially for a new seller, is to refine your skill on kicking out bad products faster. Not only you'll get through more reps in that 2-hour session, which is positive. That's a net positive towards, gaining experience and becoming a good seller. But that's actually a faster way to level up your skills.
100%. Yeah, that reminds me of something. You talk about getting your reps in and being able to disqualify leads and stuff like that. There's this idea that you need 10,000 hours to master something. And I've heard it said it's not 10,000 hours, it's 10,000 iterations. And the faster you can get to that 10,000 iterations, or that 10,000 products that you look through, which is what your iterations are going to be on Amazon, the faster you will get better at selling, at finding good products.
And from a consumer of literature standpoint, I do resent that, because that was Malcolm Gladwell that had the 10,000 hours, and it was Naval. It was Naval that tried to correct him and say it's actually 10,000 iterations, I believe. And yeah. I don't appreciate the slight on Malcolm Gladwell, because the concept is the same. It's yes. A bulk of concentrated practice. They're both correct.
Yes, so
it's a bit of splitting hairs on Naval's part. So I will defend Malcolm Gladwell to the death to anyone. I will fight you.
He is fantastic. That I'm gonna add Malcolm Gladwell to to the wish list of podcast guests, right up there with James Altucher and David Senra.
Right. I'd look like a teenage girl at a K-pop concert if we got a collab.
That's what Chris would look like. Corey, when I buy clothes, I always make sure there is enough margin to cover the fulfillment fee at the very least, so that if it's returned and I resell it again, I'll at least break even. Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. JD, is it okay to take pictures of inventory with tags and scans of receipts separately, or do I need to take a pic with items with tags and receipts, for example, Ross, TJ Maxx, etc.? You should be fine if they're separate, and you may need to merge them when you send them to Amazon to make it easy for their simple brains. Amazon's got a ton of University of Michigan graduates working for them apparently in seller support. And that should be fine.
Yeah. If anything, do it in a way that helps you from an organizational standpoint. Make sure you store it on your computer in a way that you can find it when you need it, because I think it's not going to make a huge amount of difference by the time you send it to Amazon, what format you have it.
Hey, gents, do either one of you use Feedback Whiz from 3 Colts? I have not set up Feedback Whiz at the moment. I do use, well, that's not true. I use a portion of Feedback Whiz. I use Feedback Whiz alerts. Matter of fact, Feedback Whiz alerts lets me know before Amazon does that I've got some sort of negative in my account health. And that's actually why I use it. I also have it track some other things for me as well. If a listing gets changed or something like that, a brand changes or anything like that, I want to know. So I've been using that. I don't use it to request feedback. I'm not against it. I just feel like I'm going to poke the wrong bear. And so I don't want to get in. And honestly, I don't really want any more feedback. If I could have no more feedback, that'd be fine by me. Keep any storefront stalkers away.
Sometimes I sit and wonder if my complete lack of consideration on feedback, if I'm doing it wrong. I wanted my first one. Like I didn't want to be that seller with no feedback at all. That felt detrimental. Even though you could debate whether that's accurate or not.
Mm-hmm.
But after a very small amount, I just don't care.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry if I missed it, but have you guys discussed that Aura now has Walmart repricing according to Nate Jackson? Yeah, I actually think I posted it first. I don't know that we've talked about it today, but yeah, Aura did drop Walmart repricing yesterday, and I'm stoked for them. I think they'll do a great job over there. But yeah, it is available.
I heard it according to Aura. I'm not sure what.
That is where I heard it first too. Yeah, Dylan texted me.
They sent me a DM actually. They sent their tweet through a DM, which is kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
But Christian, Jacqueline, whichever one it is, if you're attributing that to Nate Jackson, you need to come over to FBA today and hang out there with the cool kids. Because if you think Hustle Buddies has anything to do with it, you're in the wrong place.
Now, Gene, do you think the 200 and 100 units required to ungate will be loosened when we feel the backlash of these tariffs and fewer sellers as a result? I don't know that tariffs are going to change anything. I'm not sure where the 100, 200, 300, 400 units is coming from. I was trying to think about that a little bit today as I was sourcing. I got auto ungated in I think 4 brands today, and then I noticed I was actually going through our old leads, and I was like, I had this thought. I was like, I wonder if the brands that I can sell are maybe they don't have any enhanced brand content. It's not been a brand owner that's made it and created enhanced brand content. Well, that idea went right out the window. the very first one I checked, they've got a storefront and everything is, the way it's supposed to be. And so then I thought, well, maybe there's some sort of like dollar figure in how much that brand sells on Amazon where they're making it harder. Because what I did notice is that all the brands that I get ungated on and have not had any regating issues on, they're sort of these smaller to medium sized brands. But again, that's not across the board. So I have no idea. I just don't know what Amazon's thinking for sure.
I think it's I can't move off of thinking that it has to do with the counterfeit fight. And
it's gotta be
the Section 3s, I mean, I think they just I think they must have taken the all of that information, which they had to receive just mountains of data from that. And they had to have ranked brands that are more susceptible to counterfeits on their marketplace. And then
that would make sense.
And just kind of put a multi-layer, like we need to be a little more careful with this. So let's make this one 200 and let's make this one 100. And that's I can't get off that as the answer to this.
It tracks. Yeah, it would, and I understand why they maybe are not telling us too, because once they tell you why, well, then people start looking for how do I get around it,
Right.
Let's see here. Rosemary, is there any reason to delete a listing that sold ages ago? Does it help some Amazon metric out there? Nope. Despite what anyone will tell you, deleting old listings does not fix any Amazon metrics. Now, do I delete them? Yes. And I'll tell you why. Okay. Reason I delete them is I don't want to get a suspected IP complaint on an old listing. If you are around for the Clinique Gate last year, you know that thousands of sellers got suspected IP complaints overnight once brands got gated and they had open listings but no inventory in their catalogs, and everyone wondered what the heck was going on. And then they deleted those listings and they all went away over 48 hours or so. Well, if you don't want that scare in the morning, you just make sure to delete some of your old stuff.
Yeah, I tell you, I can't give any official measurements, but from the time that I started being more diligent about deleting listings, I'm dealing with far less account health issues now. Like that's fact. I don't know if, call it anecdotal, maybe going on, what I think, but there are definitely less of them, So, and if you don't have a massive not account health score, it can cause you problems, even temporarily, even if you beat stuff, right? Like I lost Neutrogena because of a suspected IP complaint that I won. I appealed and I won, but I never got Neutrogena back. So I think there was some sort of risk threshold that my score dropped below, and I kind of just got automated out of Neutrogena. And the simple fact that they unwound the score hit that I took and put me back to where I wasn't enough to get it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Corey, reprice her for a dozen listings. Yeah, no, Corey needs 2,500 or 3,000 listings before he even thinks about a repricer. Deal man, everyone needs a RAID 1 at least mirrored NAS for their files, network attached storage. I don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, so I'm going to take those as disrespect, sir. Mikhail, I have a question. How to handle the current tariff? If we brought our production from China, many clients nowadays ask that, and they are stuck because of the tariff. Not really a way around it. Got to pay it. That's it's either that or don't sell the item anymore. That's all there is. You can hope and pray that things get figured out this weekend. China and the U.S. is going to be having discussions in Switzerland, I believe, and you can hope that there is either some sort of delay or whatever. But pay it and then pass your cost on.
I do like that the slap fight is getting into bodies of water now in the comments.
Right.
And that's cracking me. We've got rivers versus lakes, a battle
Right.
going on in the comment section.
Yeah, we've got your guys' lakes catch fire, but I'd say that but we've had the Ohio River catch on fire too. Same with the Scioto. Najim, does Walmart have a kind of FBA and FBM like Amazon? Yes, there is WFS, Walmart Fulfillment Services. And then, of course, you can merchant fulfill on Walmart as well. Felix, is there a method or key indicators to check authenticity of a listing? I've listed on some newer listings. Same seller seems to be creating them. Want to avoid issues. There's no physical product yet on a listing, so I don't really know that you need to care about authenticity as long as you're selling the product matching the listing. Now, there are some things you want to check. You want to check the image or the images. You want to check the title. You want to check the brand on the listing. Okay. Those are like the three most important. I would then also go look at the bullet points. I'd check the product description. And if there are reviews, I would check out some reviews very quickly. And that's typically what I look at. If the images look good, the title looks good, the brand matches, and I don't see any other red flags, even if the person who created the listing is selling a knockoff from AliExpress, if I'm not selling a knockoff and it matches the listing, that's what matters. Peyton got hit with that gnarly Walgreens IP the other. Yep, Walgreens is back at it. Peyton, I'm not going to tell you that you need to go spend any money, but you would have known if you had IP alert. We got Walgreens put on there as soon as they started pulling that noise again. Unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking, to be quite frank. I guess I do on one hand. They don't necessarily want their stuff on Amazon. They want their customers coming into the store to buy Walmart branded products because some people are loyal to that, and you get foot traffic and then you get ancillary sales and so on. But on the other hand, Walgreens needs to take cash any and every way they can at this moment in time. So they should just accept the sales and take my money.
Yeah, exactly. And it is speaking about IP alert, didn't it got an even easier decision, didn't it? Is there a little change on the back end?
We did just drop the price. Yeah. It's been around for quite some time. It is hard to make it more valuable other than the fact that it's probably the biggest and most accurate database that's out there, but it's hard to put more value into that. So it was time to do the exact opposite of what everyone is doing in this time of tariffs and uncertainty. And we lowered the price, I think, to $79 a year, and then maybe $99 or $129 for a lifetime. I can't remember. I didn't do it.
Lifetime's down to $129. Yeah, which actually now, and for anybody out there, if you have, this will save you some time. It's now cheap enough to where you can justify getting sourcing VAs a copy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's before I gave IP alert to all my VAs, like that was so frustrating to have to go through and just kick out these leads because they didn't realize that it was an IP alert. And the thing that compounds that is it looks like a good lead because it is on IP alert, because there's not a lot of sellers and it's selling at a high price because they're filing complaints on everybody that lists with it. So of course, a lot of the stuff is going to look great. The part that they were missing was that little pop-up saying, no, this is dangerous, don't even bother. So yeah, you can save yourself a lot of time, become more efficient if you have one or more sourcing VAs just by getting them a copy too. So this makes it a heck of a lot easier.
Yep. Rosemary, I see a listing on Amazon. I have said listing. However, I can't find the ASIN because there's zero quantity. It doesn't pop up on Seller Amp. The price tag doesn't help either. Any ideas? So here's what it sounds like, because no offense, Rosemary, that was a little confusing, but it sounds like you have a variation in your hands. However, you're not able to find the ASIN because that variation is out of stock on Amazon. So there are two options. Number one is go down to Keepa, click open the variation viewer, and on the left-hand side at the very top, you can click the also show out of stock variations and then find the correct variation, and it should be in there. If for some reason it's not showing there, then you're going to want to pull up the variation wizard inside of Amazon Seller Central, and you may be able to pull it up there. But Keepa's very likely going to be able to do it for you. Najim, link for IP alert. It is actually in the video description right here. I don't know the link right off the top of my head, but you can go for the go down to the video description on YouTube and it will be there. Now, Rosemary, you don't need to be sorry at all. I got it. All right. Chris, what do you call a guy with no arms and an eye patch?
What do you call them?
Names. You call them names. All right, guys. That is the show. That's the show this week. We'll be back. Actually, I can't say yet. I will say this. Sunday is Mother's Day. Go buy your wife or your mom some flowers. Give them a call. Give them a hug. Tell them you appreciate them. Don't be holed up in your office and not let them know. And I don't know if we're going to be here yet or not. But if you're a mom and you're listening, happy Mother's Day. I hope you guys have a great, restful Sunday and your progeny maybe leaves you alone for just a little while. All right. That's it for today, guys. Have a great one.